Okay, we're going to read a chapter of Sangatsu no Lion. This is a series that's really, really important to me, really, really precious. I first found out about it when Shaft announced they were animating it, and I completely fell in love with that anime, one of the most moving anime watching experiences in my entire life. And then, somewhat more recently, I decided I would start reading the manga as well. It's just a masterpiece, in many ways, exceeding the anime. Of course, each of them playing so strongly to the unique strengths of their medium, but certainly something worth reading in parallel with the anime that offers just a different perspective and a different encapsulation of these wonderful, wonderful characters and the dramatic and beautiful lives that they live. So the other exciting thing about the manga is that it actually goes further than the anime. So I've just arrived at chapter 90. We read chapter 89, and that was the last thing that the anime covered. Hina getting into the high school with, well, yeah, she gets into the same high school as Rei, and the cover arc Momo is stuck in a tree. Takahashi-kun leaving. They have the Sakura Festival. Hina cuts her hair. It's really short. And this is basically the end of the anime. And now we'll move on to things that are brand new to me. This chapter called A Man Called a Grim Reaper. They got Momo out of the tree. Some local old man who owned a ladder, helping get her out. Rei apologizing profusely. Some old ladies laughing in the background. Beautiful little slice of life. Okay. Momo's still inconsolable, but, you know, she'll get over it eventually. This chapter is called, quite ominously, The Man Called a Grim Reaper. I have no idea who that could be referring to. Shimada? My beloved Shimada? I don't think so. Why is this world split into people who are loved and people that aren't loved? Who split it up? Where did the paths diverge? Today, Yokomizu-san, someone that was always detached and spoke casually, stumbled over his words many times. Okay, so some show match is happening, some kind of fairly major match. At the big board on commentary is Yokomizu-san, who is a character that has shown up time and time again throughout this series. I'm pretty sure that's who they're referring to. Who stumbled over his words many times. And he's never taken the center stage. He's never been a significant character for an arc. He's just kind of there often as Smith's buddy. He seems kind of frail, I would say, and maybe a little awkward. You really save me today. Order whatever you want. So it looks like Smith and Kiriyama stepped in for commentary when he was stumbling. What a cozy little spot this is that they're eating at. This series is just full of the most coziest, warmest looking, just old-fashioned, simple and beautiful places. Oh my gosh. Just can't get back into the swing of things. Something warm. Ah, Kiriyama's so considerate. Something warm. Yeah, that sounds good. Having a beer. Of course. So quite a bit of time has passed. Because at first they just have these plates of edamame. And then when we kind of cut back, he's already got a beer. What was with the greeting the president gave this afternoon? Seriously. Today was day 2 of the first game of the Meijin Championship. Yokomizu-san and Smith-san were doing the big board commentary. I was called in as an assistant. So that first dialogue, talking about the world of the loved and the unloved, that was Kiriyama-kun's thoughts. Which I assumed was the case, but I'm fairly certain this confirms it. Let Let me introduce your commentators for today. Starting from the right, we have class down, stagnating, and class up. So yeah, Kiriyama is officially Class B Group 2, I guess, which is very, very exciting. In the last chapter, he was saying it was almost a sure thing. But to introduce them as class down and stagnating, oh my gosh. The president, what a great character. He just has like no common sense for these things. Or I think he just assumes that all of his professional buddies are invincible. That there's no way Yokomizu or Smith could be offended by this or rattled by it in any way, shape, or form. That they're just gonna laugh it off because it's a funny joke. Class down, stagnating, class up. Eesh. My president's eating elsewhere. Good luck with the rest. So Smith leans into it immediately. He's pissed off, but he's gonna joke about it. Like he's there's only one way to go forward with this sort of thing, which is to embrace it. Something humiliating has been said to you, so you just have to own it. I'm the one stagnating in Class B Group 2. And Yokomizu, of course, who got an even more brutal introduction. I guess he used to be Group 1? Or Class A even? I don't know. I was pretty depressed about going down in rank already. Then that introduction turned my heart to sand. On top of that, he came today, didn't he? Could this be the man they call a Grim Reaper? Yeah, he did all right. All the way back of the big board menu. I don't know what they mean by menu here, but this must be the room where people are observing the big board. Who is this man that they call a Grim Reaper? Because it's definitely him. Look at him. That's who you'd call the Grim Reaper, for sure. Or a Shinigami, god of death, as it probably is in the original. A man that always seems to be clad in clothing of pitch black omens. Him standing there is unlucky. If he sits, it's creepy. The sight of him walking is the god of plague, the most shunned person in the shogi world. Name Rikawa Izaya 7dan, age 35. Interesting character. He kind of looks like Kaiki from the Monogatari series, don't you think? He has that same sort of ominousness. But I'm sure Kiriyama, this is who inspired his thinking about the unloved of the world. This is certainly a man who is unloved. Yes, last month, Yokomizu-san was up against this man. I don't want to repeat his name. Name Rikawa Izaya 7dan in the last rank deciding match of Class B Group 1. I see. So this was his D-ranking match. At the precipice of if you win, you stay where you are. If you lose, you fall in rank. And he lost. Is it okay if I go to the bathroom before the postmortem? I assume that in Japanese, the term post-mortem isn't as grim. I doubt it's literally the same term that they use for a post-mortem. I'm not sure. Maybe it is, because it's kind of odd to translate it as post-mortem. I don't think that phrase is used that often in English competitive gaming. I don't know, a post-mortem analysis? I guess people do say that for a lot of things. I don't know. Anyways. It certainly fits with his position as a god of death to be talking about the post-mortem. He fell, holding it in for some time. He had been reeled in by the Grim Reaper. What an interesting character. It's like, in any other series, you would, well, not any other, but in most series, you would kind of take all of this stuff at face value, you know? You'd be like, ooh, how ominous. This guy's probably going to be a villain later. And, sure. But given the consistency with which every single character, no matter how dramatically they're introduced, no matter how strong their personality at first may seem, Sangatsu no Lion consistently brings out such deep, universal human truths from every one of their characters that, like, you see someone like this and you know what you're getting is the first layer of like 500. What you're getting is something that isn't even scratching the surface of the magnitudes and depths of this person. So knowing that, every clue you do get, it's not like they're invaluable, or it's not like they're dismissible or irrelevant or whatever. They all just contribute to what you know is going to end up being like a masterwork of characterization. So it's like, well, what's up with this guy is what I'm saying. So God of Flag, all right. I guess he wasn't about to fall all alone. Did a great job taking Yokomizu with him. So both of them are going down a rank, huh? Oh, so it's like Yokomizu's record was such that if he got one more win, he would stay in Class B Group 2. Whereas this guy, the God of Plague, was already doomed to fall to Class B Group 2. Sorry. Fall from Class B Group 1. Yokomizu's in Class B Group 1. So if he had just thrown for the sake of Yokomizu could have stayed in Class B Group 1. But, like, he's not going to do that. It would be totally unreasonable to think that he would do that. Of course, your own record is going to persist past this season or whatever, so it's important to get every win you can. He was going to fall regardless of whether he won or lost, I suppose is what's happening here. So it really is all circumstantial, and yet it certainly seems like, yeah, he's dragging down Yokomizu into this depth of plague and abyss. Okay, all right. Interesting. So now that means that this guy is in the same class as Kiriyama. They're going to end up playing with each other. So the people that we know are in this group so far are Smith, Yokomizu, Kiriyama, the God of Death. Kiriyama's dad is also Class B. I don't know if he's Class B Group 2 or Group 1, but the way they talked before made it seem like they're going to play each other. So, oh, this is all quite interesting. And that way of losing has a lingering effect. Not being alone is such a wonderful thing, he's singing. About the fact that he made Yokomizu D-rank at the same time. Is he genuinely happy that he got the opportunity to make someone else D-rank so he doesn't feel alone in going down rank? Yokomizu is probably going to get shredded next period. I know how pathetic it sounds, but just seeing him there by the beam made me shiver. Made me remember that last game. Honestly, I've been feeling super awful since then. He didn't say super awful. I just added the word super. Isn't that weird? Why did I do that? Anyways. That guy, whenever I would look up during the game, he'd be staring at my face. I just seriously do not like that. Again and again, just staring. Came to the point where that was all I was thinking about, and I just wanted to scream. Oh man. What a character. What can we say about this guy? How eventually are we going to end up being so sympathetic for him? As I know we will. It's around then that it became so muddled, I was left with a board that was beyond all hope of recovery. Same way when I played him. It was 4 years ago. B1 was finally within my grasp, and my final game was against Namori Kawa. For him, it was a throwaway match, but he twisted around me and held me back with incredible persistence. It's been 4 years since then. So I've been stagnating. Yeah, because Smith, I guess, has been in B2 ever since, right? He was saying B1 was finally within my grasp 4 years ago. And that's why the president said, stagnating. Back then, he was staring at me like he was licking me all over. Whoa. It's like swapping war stories like this. Kiriyama, this is like a classic thing that happens to him, that he gets crowded out by the word bubble. And in just the mangaka here, she does this so often in Sangatsu no Lion. Chiko Umeda, oh my something like that. She does this a lot, where there's this very subtle fourth wall breaking in so many different ways. But like Kiriyama leaning so he can see around the speech bubble. Oh, it's so great. It's such a funny gag, and yet there's like so much personality just encased within it. So the whole time he's got to be thinking like, oh my god, this guy is in the same group as me. We're gonna have to play at some point. And apparently this guy is so cursed, he just drains the life from you. He drains the life from your whole shogi career, perhaps. Terrifying. Terrifying. And yet, there is a bend of comedy to this whole chapter. Like, Smith and Yokomizu are often played quite comedically. And as much as we empathize with how terrifying this whole experience seems to be to them, they are the perfect characters to hear about this guy from, right? Because they have that natural, like, suffering comedy, that aura around them. Normally he plays the soft and light, hard to get a hold of sort of shogi. Kind of like Smith. That's how Smith described his own play as well, like light. But for some reason, when he's playing a game where his opponent's fate is on the line, he plays like a power game, like a man possessed by a god. So he actually plays differently in these critical moments. A much more smothering, brutal sort of game. He's always standing in the crossroads that is somebody's moment of truth. He takes them in the opposite direction of their desires. How can a guy be that ominous? He does too damn good a job at being a god of plague. This is such fantastic paneling. I mean, I don't know. The Sangatsu no Lion, the manga has taught me new things about what is possible in manga. I've read a lot of manga. That's not something I say very often. And just the way this whole chapter, has been this constant blend of memory, both to the big board game earlier that day, to their game earlier, to Smith's game earlier, just this kind of swirl of memory around them drinking in a bar. All of this being depicted in ways that with the perfect level of subtlety, situate you in those time periods, you know, such that it never feels confusing, and yet it is still so free-flowing from thought to thought, this kind of stream of shared consciousness. And then all of them coinciding of these images of him playing like a man possessed, and of standing in the crossroads of his fate. It's like they've all kind of conjured up this imaginary space through their memories, through their recollections. And then they're commenting on it. they're like, they've built up this image, and they're like, come on, this is ridiculous. How can it be this ominous? Like, do you get what I'm saying? The kind of layering here is just, I'm so impressed. My dad taught me that no matter who you're up against in a match, it's good manners to play your best against them. Shut your trap, divine child. We're talking about humans right now. The protagonist. I love, yeah, again, this is like really fun fourth wall breaking. But first, there's like a really nice, earnest panel of Kiriyama. The fact that Kiriyama quotes his dad here, I think, is quite interesting. I think he's more doing it out of consideration of the fact that his dad is also Class B, and they've probably crossed paths quite a few times. So he's trying to evoke the image of like a senpai to them, instead of just trying to say his own opinion as a total newcomer to Class B. Sure, that's just Kiriyama's consideration. But it's a nice, honest panel. It's him really trying to make sense of the situation, and trying to suggest, like, oh, there's no way that this guy is intentionally sandbagging just so he can be more devastating during critical matches against him. Like, Kiriyama, I'm sure, personally considers this absurd, this idea. Okay, anyway, so in this sincere panel, the mangaka points out that what he's drinking is ginger ale, just so none of us are concerned about underage drinking. And then in the next panel, which is like this kind of scathing undercutting of the direction that Kiriyama is trying to steer the conversation. And like in the art, this is so reflected as well. The first panel being this kind of distinguished portrait of Kiriyama trying to make his point, is responded with the two of them looking like jackals, quiet down, virgin, etc., etc. And then in this panel, where Kiriyama is reduced to like tears, and it's like, it's like the same sort of thing. In case you were worried about underage drinking, we're labeling it as ginger ale. In case you were worried that like that the first panel was not indicative of the series, this is indeed the protagonist. And then they start just ranting on and on and on. And I love, like, this is something else the series does so well. And we saw it just in this one panel here, where they have this genuinely extremely ominous, very experimental panel of him standing in the crossroads. And then just, like, yelling over top of their own image of how ridiculous it is. And now, after we've had that kind of poetic segment that's given us a little bit of pause of like, who is this person that they're talking about? Now they're just ranting. Like now they've probably drank enough that there's no more kind of constructing this anymore. It's just ranting. How much of a character is that guy got? His parents' house is a funeral parlor. What? Oh my gosh. His face is too sinister, so he wasn't able to take over the family business, even though he's the eldest brother. This guy's character background is way too perfect. Well, okay. So they call it immediately. But it is a girl. He's going with Hina-chan. And we don't really know his feelings for Hina-chan. It's clear that Hina-chan is someone who is tremendously important to him. And in the last chapter, oh my god. When he starts talking about how something new was built in him that day. The day when she said, "I've done nothing wrong." When he realized that he can take control over how he feels about these sorts of things. Oh my god. Oh, it was just so lovely. And at this point, you know, I kind of like the idea of Kiriyama as sort of aromantic. You know, I feel like this series is just so good without any sort of romantic subplot that it really doesn't need one. But at this point, I don't care. Like they've made a few jokes in the last chapter about how it's fine that Kiriyama is home alone with Hina, nothing is gonna happen, etc., etc. And then of course there's all this stuff that like Kiriyama's teacher thinks that they should be romantically involved or thinks that Kiriyama secretly likes her. And now like this sort of misunderstanding, that sort of thing has happened a few times. But so it's like I don't know if they're hinting at this or not. At this point, I'm fine with anything. That's I guess where I'm at. I think it would be if they did it, they're gonna do it so well. And if they don't bother with any of this sort of plot line, it's not like it's gonna be missed. So I don't know. I just every time they make like a joke like this, I'm like, oh, I don't know. What does it actually mean? So he's going to the entrance ceremony with Hina. A few days later. Oh, so we don't actually get to see that. Interesting. But that was in the anime. The two of them walking together to school. And that hasn't been in the manga yet. But it looks like that's not going to be there. Because when we saw that, that was the first time that Kiriyama saw her haircut. And in the anime, there's this really lovely scene where he's like, oh, I like it. I like it. Oh, yeah, I like it. Like, he just keeps repeating it. Because he's like, I don't know, I think he just really thinks it's a nice haircut. And she's getting like more and more frustrated and embarrassed. And he's not like continuing just to tease her. It's like he's continually realizing just how much he actually means it. Anyways, so I guess we're not getting that scene? I don't know. Because now it's a few days later. So obviously they've been to school together. He's seen her since the haircut. Whatever. He's reading Shogi World. Of course. Ooh, it's the first long interview with the man called the Grim Reaper. The shogi player in the funeral attire. I'm surprised that they're still kind of pursuing this plotline. I thought that would be kind of just like an introduction to this character, and then he shows up like a few arcs down the line as Kiriyama's opponent or something like that. And then I thought, you know, with this talk of the entrance ceremony, that we would transition into more about Hina-chan or something. I don't know. But the chapters are usually actually quite focused. Not often will they have, like, and now let's check on this plot line, and now let's check on that plot line, you know? I think, yeah. I don't know. I could get into a big thing about this, about like how chapters are constructed. Should chapters be like a span of time? Should chapters be like character focalized? Should chapters be kind of a thought process of a character? It's a big subject. I really love people. My parents run a small funeral parlor in town, and ever since I was a grade schooler, even now from time to time, I go there to help out. I really love people transitions into this. I suppose in running a funeral parlor, you really do have to connect with people at some of their most distressed and vulnerable moments. And you forge a connection with them around a subject that is so intimate and so difficult to breach for most people. That, of course, being death. Oh boy, this chapter, in some ways, is all over the place. Whenever I look at people inside a casket that won't be moving around anymore, I can't help but get ideas about giving it your all when you're still alive and moving. That's why I love shogi from the bottom of my heart. I don't know anything that makes me feel more alive than this. See, it's already happening, I'm telling you. He's not just a villain. He's not just a caricature. Sure, his backstory is so perfect. Sure, he's so ominous it's ridiculous. But isn't that quite a thing he just said? When you really think about death, what other lesson can you really take away? Besides, well, I better make the most of the time I got. And then in doing so, what better qualifier than the thing that makes you feel the most alive? During my matches, I frequently peer into the faces of my opponents. Do you know why? Because a match is quite close to an exchange of lives. Even more so when someone's fate is hanging in the balance. At that extreme point where nothing can be glossed over, I cannot help but think lovingly, from the bottom of my heart, about this opponent I am in a match against, showing me themselves just as they are. Ah! Oh man, this reminds me of Shakunetsu Ping Pong Musume. Or Scorching Ping Pong Girls, as I think the localization is. Which is a manga that got adapted. I've read both the manga and watched the anime. I actually really like it. It's very, I don't know. There's nothing about it that looks good at first glance, but it's actually very, very solid. At any rate, this is something the main character is always saying. That when you play ping pong with someone, you can look right at their faces. You can see their face right pretty close when they're trying their hardest. And that kind of communication, that kind of connection is what makes it so powerful. Think lovingly about this opponent. So really appreciating them. Not dismissively, not evilly, not I control your fate. Shall ye remain in this class or drop beneath? You know, nothing sinister, but pushing them that far in those situations out of genuine appreciation of you are truly living your life right now, opponent. You are pushed to the very brink of your abilities right now. And I get to witness that. And I get to truly appreciate everything that this game means to you. That seems like something people can easily misunderstand. How do you feel about that? So this is the interviewer, I guess. The way that this is laid out, with the box around this, which is clearly the interviewer's question, makes me think there might be like a slight misunderstanding in the translation here, where in this box in the bottom panel, it actually is the interviewer saying, during matches, you frequently peer into the faces of your opponents. Why is that? And because Japan has so much like subject dropping and object dropping and pronouns are just thrown out on all sorts of occasions, it's very frequent that those two different interpretations could be expressed with the exact same words. So I'm not saying this is like an unreasonable issue in the translation. This is my assumption. I don't know. None of this matters. Let's just move on. I'm doing it for myself. Really, I'm okay as long as I'm satisfied myself. As long as I can like them, that is quite enough for me to be happy. Doesn't matter that other people dislike him. It doesn't matter that it creeps people out. He's just aiming for his own personal satisfaction. All these panels of him, oh my, again, it's a master class in how you can depict this sort of stuff in manga. The way that they slightly depict differently, say, this flashback to helping out in the funeral parlor, looking down at the body, to this shot, which is, so this is something we've never seen before, but this shot of him staring at Yokomizu is kind of like a reconstruction of something we already knew about. So it's depicted a little differently. Huh? You see what I'm saying? It's pretty cool. And then this shot, which is just him kind of in his glory, I guess I would say, surrounded by this swirling miasma, these crows, the black tree. He really looks like Kaiki. He really gives me Kaiki vibes here in just the best possible way. I'm so intrigued by this character. Okay, so Kiriyama, I'm not sure what he thinks about all of this, but it looks like he wants to report it to Smith and Kiyomizu. After that, the two of them hurled all kinds of abusive language. Like, what a creepy philosophy. And that smile is like something out of a horror film. And then finally, how about we invite him to drinks next time? Oh my god. Series is just so good. It's just, this one chapter is, I think, just a good exemplar of so many things I love about this series. It's such a wonderful, like, self-contained story, introducing the character, this whole backstory, the relying on the strengths of characterizations of the characters we already know who are involved, you know, Kiriyama and Smith and Yokomizu, but standing alone quite a bit as well. Like, I just love it. I don't know what to say. This series is so good. Let's look forward to reading more. We're on chapter 90, and the latest chapter is 164. So I have quite a lot to do to catch up. So I hope you like this series. I hope you like hearing me talk about it. I'm just going to be gushing with praise in every single chapter. So, yeah. All right, bye.